Hey Matthew, how are you doing?
Good morning. Yeah, very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Good morning as well. It's a Tuesday morning. It is very bright where I am in Devon, which is usually not the case. Usually it's a bit rainy and a bit, but we
Yeah,
have.
it's been a bit rainy.
Whereabouts are you in the world at the moment?
So yeah, you just caught us. We just moved. We were in London. We were in East London in Hackney, and we moved to Linfield, which is a little village just outside of Brighton. So
Oh,
it's kind
wow.
of moved into the countryside, escaped London, and it's amazing. Yeah, I'm
I, I
absolutely loving
literally,
it.
I literally live in Hackney Central, so
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I know exactly. So, what made you want to move outside London? Because I know everyone. I think it's probably like the second lockdown was just like I don't want to spend
Yeah.
lockdown in the city. And obviously, my family from Devon, so I
Yeah.
had the ability to jump between London and Devon. But most of my time I was doing it here. But what made
Yeah.
you? Would you probably would have done it earlier before lockdown, or was it lockdown kind of made you
Yeah.
go, maybe I want to do city? I don't want to do city life anymore.
Yeah, it was always on the cards. We've got two girls who are 5 and 3, and so we kind of knew, yeah, at some stage we were going to move. Like out of London was a definite, and then yeah, exactly that. Like so many people last year, kind of just showed that I've carried on working loads, remotely, and when because of that, I don't need to be in London anymore. Like I don't need to sort of be anywhere.
Mm,
I can kind of do what I do from kind of anywhere really.
mm.
So yeah, we wanted to just get away. I had like a nice childhood in Windsor, and my wife is from Cambridge, and I think we just kind of wanted a bit of that for our kids. And Hackney was great; it was good fun. You live there, like it's nice, social kind of scene.
Yeah.
But after you've had kids, and all I really need is a park and a nice coffee shop, and that's all I need. So I wasn't, everyone was sort of saying, oh, you've got all these museums and things on your doorstep, but we weren't going to any of them. Like we weren't
Fair enough, yeah.
like it was just revolving around like a nice kind of, inspiring nature walks and, yeah, things like that, much more sort of outdoor events.
Is that because I'm interested to know, does that happen when you probably have like kids, you stop going to sort of like the things that you usually would go to because you have got less time because you got to, and also some of the places might not be child friendly. So I think
Yeah.
parks and coffee shops are kind of like the normal sort of thing for kids.
Yeah, exactly. So they're kind of like dogs. They need to run around and they need to kind of just like, except for the pooing outside, like they're pretty much like dogs. And they just need to kind of like get rid of all that energy and run it off. Otherwise, you have to deal with all that manicness in the house.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's not to say that we can't, go because we do love going to museums and go love to like exhibitions and things. You've just got to be a bit selective about the ones that you go to, which are not going to be as fast if your kid has a meltdown. So because what happens, like we've been in sort of Tate Modern or wherever, the Serpentine, and like they just won't stop running around or get off that thing or put that down.
yeah.
Don't touch the Matisse. Like you just can't control them. Or
I
I
love
can't
that.
anyway.
So before we started the Zoom call, I noticed in the background that you have like action figures, and I wanted just to say like he's got this massive Spider-Man poster and all these little amazing action figures. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming, have you been a massive fan of kind of the Marvel sort of like costume? Is it cosplay?
We're not really. I'm more on the comic side of
The comic
of
side?
things,
Okay.
but yeah, cosplay's the costume. Yeah, fantasy. Yeah, dress up.
Right. Okay.
Like
Okay.
the characters. I don't think I've ever done. I probably have done a Halloween or something at some stage, but no, I'm a huge comic book nerd. So I love the comics and then also just toys. I never really grew up, really. I think like so many men, like I never properly sort of grew up. So I still love the toys. I kind of, like have a whole collection of varying sizes. Like I said, we've just moved, so loads of my stuff's in storage. So the plan is to turn this into some, big
And
shrine to the comics.
I love it. So tell
Yeah,
me, how did it first start? Because obviously you work for Walt Disney at the moment as head of
yeah.
creative, but also you are a stand-up comedian and you've done like some TV presenting. So I'm like, my mind's blown already. So I want to go back. Like, where did it?
Yeah.
Did you always envision yourself as like a creative director, or did you want to become a comedian? How did it work?
Yeah, I mean, I've had no plan. Like I've always just kind of followed what interests me, and I've always just been a bit of a creature of pleasure. Like I like things that I enjoy. So I started off when I first, okay, so way back, like I first left university. I did a film and performance degree and English as well. So it was all geared towards some kind of performative event. I always enjoyed acting. I thought acting was the way.
Yeah.
And then I realized that too much was out of my control. And, you know, I didn't really have the kind of control in my career as I would like. So then I was like, oh, I want to be a filmmaker. I think I want to make films. And then I realized that I needed some money behind me. So I thought, okay, well, let's go and earn loads of money. So I started, so my first job out of university was as a trainee a banker in the city. And I did that for about 6 months, and then I was just like, "This is awful. I hate this." So I quit or was fired. I can't really remember. My heart wasn't in it, and I wasn't paying any attention to any of it. So anyway, that all ended, and then I was just like, "Okay, what do I actually love?" And I love TV, and I love film, and I love kind of all things related to that. You know, comics, obviously, but effectively stories. I love stories. So then I started as a runner for an agency, a TV agency in London, in Soho, and kind of never really looked back. I started at a company as a runner, then became like a junior editor. At the time, I was shooting every single minute outside of work. I was kind of doing music videos, short films, little skits, lots of different kind of little. It's silly little kind of like video sketches effectively, but just doing stuff because I just wanted to practice. I wanted to kind of get better and develop all the sort of skills that university sort of teed up. And then progressed, became junior editor, started to be given more directing jobs, and that kind of like progressed, became senior creative, and then effectively that I sort of stayed at that company because then I got offered the creative director role for the Singapore office. And so I kind of went from runner to creative director, which was quite fun. Like, that was a nice little rise.
What was the timeline between running?
I think I started there at 23, and then I was offered the creative director by 29, so maybe like 6 years.
Okay, yeah.
No, my maths are terrible.
And
7 years.
How was your Singapore experience?
I loved it, absolutely loved it. It was amazing. It was a great, so the Singapore office was kind of different. It was more like an advertising agency in the truest sense of the word. Maybe the London office was a bit more broadcast, and then the Singapore office was, definitely more like an advertising agency. And it was great fun. Like, I love the heat. The weather was incredible. The food is amazing, and it was a really exciting time. But then the other thing that was happening kind of concurrently was the comedy. So around about the time that things really took off, and it's interesting that you sort of this is about maybe mantras or pieces of advice, or maybe even just a mindset. There was a year when I was maybe about sort of junior creative, so fairly early on, but I just decided that it was going to be the year of yes. I was going to say yes to every opportunity that came my way, and not like even think about it, not even like leave, and that could have been disastrous. Like, it could have been.
There's a film based on it, isn't it, with Jim Carrey, The Yes Man?
I'm not seeing it, but someone else mentioned that. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing.
Okay, so it's exactly that. So it basically just was like, I'm just going to say yes to every opportunity that comes my way, and that year was when my wife bought me a stand-up comedy course for a birthday, and then I went and did that every Monday for about 6 weeks. I went and met in this little dingy hall in South London somewhere, and they teach you how to create jokes, how to kind of approach the mic, how to sort of find your own style. They weren't writing material for you, but like it would teach you how to generate material and how to kind of use your life experience to kind of create material. And so I did that for 6 weeks, and then our first gig was at Up the Creek in Greenwich, which is a stand-up comedy venue, which is a brilliant, amazing venue. And this is our first ever sort of stand-up gig in front of like 100 people, 150 people.
Wow.
And I mean, you know, they were lovely. The audience were lovely. I'm sure we were all terrible, but I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. And that became my life for at least 10 years.
How do you manage though? The kind of like the agency life is very, very long in terms of like
Yeah.
hours and loads of projects going on. How did you balance that with your comedian stuff and also family stuff?
Do you know what? Because I didn't have family stuff. So the family's only in sort of like recent years. So it was kind of like, so the intense period, it was probably up until moving to Singapore, and then also like over what, you know, whilst I was in Singapore. But I don't know, you make things work. Like my wife and I talk about, you know, when we were in London, like I was a runner and she was sort of a junior wherever, but you know, how did we even manage to live in London, like on no money, like on like 10 grand a year or 11 grand? I don't know how we did it, but we did it. You know, you just kind of, you make it work. And so the comedy was almost like you know, I always sleep quite late anyway. So I was always out, you know, going to the pubs and things. So I was going to be out anyway. So then you know, you're just going to gigs, you're just going around London. And I just made it work. Like I just knew that I had to be at a gig at like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. So I go straight from work and just go into a gig, or sometimes I'd be 2 or 3 gigs. And it would literally be like Monday to Friday, like and you know, it could have been 5 or 6 nights a week. I'd be doing gigs for years. So my wife would come. Well, she was my girlfriend then, but like, yeah, she would come along. But then eventually, like that, the interest in sort of like coming along to these gigs kind of waned a little bit. Yeah, like you can't. There's only so many times you can see, you know, someone trying to figure out comedy, and then it starts getting really well. Like not too long after starting, and I entered into some competitions, and was like making the finals, and you know, kind of, I came runner up in a big sort of nationwide talent competition called Amuse Moose. Which was like where Rob Beckett and Ramesh Ranganathan, and I was up against all of them, beat them, and the first year, but then they won the next year, and it was all, yeah, it was great. So like it was kind of a very quick rise, and it's really funny because just like life just constantly gives you choices, and
opportunities and
opportunities, and there's varying sort of things. So there was a chance around about 2012. This was like the kind of comedy year. I was like entered into a BBC newcomers thing as well, and then that was when I got offered the creative director role for Singapore.
Right.
So I was kind of like opportunity to be creative director abroad, which I'd always wanted to work abroad, and they have a comedy scene in Singapore. Like it's nothing like, you know, like the UK, like but Asia, but it's very different, and in a way it's a lot more liberating. There's not the amount of competition that you have here. And they are really, like, London can sometimes be a very hard place to do comedy. It's a very unforgiving place, but like, you know, if you're good, you're great, and it's fine.
Would you say that taking the role of kind of creative director in Singapore was more your kind of logical brain going, okay, that's more control and security, rather than doing the comedy and doing that role?
100%. Like I think at the back of my mind, I still do have maybe like the echoes of my parents saying, you know, and also because the thing is, the creative director role is still a passion. It's not like I was sacrificing one creative thing to go and be like an accountant. I'm not that there's anything wrong with accountancy, but I'm not a numbers guy. But to do anything that, you know, that I felt like I was giving up something. It was like I've always, like, you know, when I started on the path in TV, I was like, oh wow, it'd be amazing to be a creative director. So to be given that fairly young as well was quite an opportunity. And then also to realize that I could still be doing stand-up in Asia. So I did, and then I went over to Singapore, and I ended up gigging all over Asia. I've done gigs in Hong Kong, in Myanmar, like Burma, like you.
Because obviously the difference of like jokes and the culture is different. So obviously you'd have to completely make a new set when you move to Singapore. Yeah,
I mean, yes and no. Funny is funny, and funny is universal. And so if something's funny, they'll get it. They'll get it around the world, and Singapore's a very interesting place as well. It's very, westernized. It's kind of like that middle ground between Asia, which maybe what we conceive as like Taiwan or China or any of these things, and then because of the British influence there's been a lot of sort of like obviously it used to be, I think it was a British colony, so there's a lot of British influence there, and so they have like a language called Singlish, which is Singaporean and English like mixed, and it's brilliant to listen to. Everyone, the national language is English, so they all speak English. Like you've got loads of different races. You've got Malay and Indian.
Yeah. My best friend from Singapore, so I know it quite well. I've never been, but I've always.
Oh, it's just the best. It's just like it's so I'd say the one tricky thing about Singapore was that it's quite strict. So maybe their sensibilities are a bit. They can be easily shocked, which is great from a comedic standpoint. Like in the UK, you can't shock anyone. Like everyone's like, I heard it. But in Singapore, it was great. It was like starting again.
Yeah, and so obviously you moved in then from kind of, I'm assuming from Singapore, you moved to kind of Walt Disney, which is where you are now, head of creative. Can I assume that your ability to be able to just kind of separate your creative director role, your comedic path, and the other things that you are interested in has made you more of a rounded creative? Because I've always believed that you need to have many different influences in your life rather than just do one thing, because then you're not getting fresh ideas. Is that
100%? And I found that one thing was helping the other. Like my job. Because what we were doing lots of shows around Asia, so I was traveling a lot with work, like directing TV shows and amazing food shows. Like I was doing things with the Food Network where we were doing like the best thing I ever ate with like celebrities all over Asia, and like taking us to these incredible places. So my waistline ballooned when I was out there. It was great. But then one thing would help the other. So then all that travel and all those experiences, hilarious stories of like on the road, and then that would help the comedy. The comedy, being in front of an audience, and a cold audience, there's no laughter, no one's smiling, and turning that into raucous laughter. And you've got 200. I've done a gig in front of like an auditorium of like thousands of people, and to have that kind of laughter gives you a new sense of what you can achieve. And like how maybe limiting your imagination, how limiting my imagination was before that, of the things that I could do, that specifically me, not when I'm part of a team, and not when I'm kind of like, it really kind of gave me a new sense of the power that I have to be able to affect change, and to affect emotional change, mood change, laughter. So when that happened, and hopefully it wasn't sort of cockiness, but it was just like, actually I can. There's nothing really that I can't do. Like, and if someone else has like done it, so I never got. So after that, I never really got nervous about things.
I believe that as well. If someone else has done it, you can do it.
Yeah, literally. If someone else has done it, I can completely do it. I think you're constantly sort of told, and I never fully understood it. Like doing stand-up is one of my biggest fears, one of my biggest nightmares, and I think that's maybe like the masochistic sort of side of people that do stand-up, that they love that that kind of like confronting a fear maybe, or the fear of failure. I think is probably like the biggest one that you confront. I don't think that I never really got too nervous about being in front of people. It was just like you just fear about sucking, just being rubbish.
And it also probably gets a lot easier for pitching as well in your advertising creative work, because obviously you're always in front of people in the comedic sense. And then when you feel like going to pitching, you'll be like, oh, I've told jokes in front of thousands of people. I've only got to like deliver like a pitch to like 10 people. So fine.
And then exactly. I think that confidence in walking into any situation, saying, look, I'm an orator, I can convey an idea, and I can hold someone's attention, and like at the very least I can just hold someone's attention to convey this idea. That's effectively all the pitching has to be. But hopefully what I can do is throw some lightness in there and engage people. I'm forever, and probably annoyingly so, but like always, not trying to be funny, but I like to enjoy life, and I like to have
Too.
fun.
Me too. I met
And I
a
like
friend
laughing.
recently, and he was just like cracking jokes all the time, and it was like me and him with like Lauren Hardy, and I was like,
Yeah,
it's literally just about enjoying life and not taking
yeah.
it too seriously. But
I think
so
that's it.
I want to know, what is it like working for Walt Disney then as a creative? Like, is it really busy all the time? Because I mean, the company is so massive.
Yeah.
There's so many facets to it. What is it like for you?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, I'm just a huge nerd. So like Star Wars and Marvel, I don't think I could really work anywhere else. Like it's such a joy to sort of be in meetings sometimes when we're talking about the slate and things coming up on, on Marvel's calendar that I have to kind of figure out campaigns for, or I'm a father of two girls who just absolutely love the princesses, and actually they love Marvel as well. They love the superheroes, like they love it all. So it's a really nice kind of like time of our life to be working on something that I feel really passionate about as well. Like like I was saying earlier, it's all about storytelling, the comedy, like everything just like helps strengthen one aspect of the other. So yeah, Disney just feels like a perfect fit right now, and it's a busy place, and there's loads of different facets to it. It's a very kind of diverse, big organization with loads of different moving parts, which we're one end of it, and there's a billion others which are almost treated like separate businesses.
Do you ever think about like your past, about how things like your own path, like you're so fascinated about kind of comic books and like those sort of stories, and suddenly you're working for a company that's so
Yeah,
ingrained in that sort of world. Do you ever think about like the choice
yeah,
that you make and the path that you've gone and gone, actually, I just trusted the universe, and my
yeah,
passion has kind of led me to where I need to be, rather than think about
yeah.
it?
Exactly that. And I do sometimes think, I know, maybe you manifest your reality. Like
You
I
do.
think
I do
at
believe.
an early age, I always thought about stories and being silly, and just like, and being silly I think is one of my driving factors in everything that I do, every interaction I have. If I can be silly at some stage within that, then happy days. I feel happy. I've hopefully made someone else feel happy, and then everything else just slots into place. And that's kind of being a bit flippant. There's a lot of hard work as well,
Mm,
but you've got to enjoy that, like, and you've got to have moments within all of that,
mm.
to make it enjoyable.
Yeah.
Because if you're not enjoying it, what's the point?
I know, I know. I had a conversation with someone recently, and they were like, "Oh, I'm gonna do like this a corporate job," and I was like, "Oh, do you enjoy it?" And they were like, "No." I was like,
Yeah.
"They're like, oh, I'm gonna make a lot."
Sometimes money's the point, though, so that's also true.
The what thing? The money.
Sometimes money's the point.
Yeah, but can you know, I always believe that you can always find money in the things that you really like doing. I've always
Yeah,
found that. Like, if you really love your job, there is a way of making money out of it. Like, there is.
yeah,
I
yeah,
honestly believe that. Like, you just have to find the right niche or the right path of
yeah.
doing it. But I don't.
And you have to be really good at it. And I think the other thing is patience. Like I'm not ever tried to rush anything, because I've never really had an end goal. I'm not trying to rush anywhere. I'm 100% always been about enjoying the ride. So like I'm not on my way anywhere. Like I've never had an end goal. I have no idea where I'll be in 5 years' time. I never thought I'd be a creative director, or I never thought I'd be a stand-up comedian. I just like, oh, that was good. And then I enjoy those bits. So when I find something that I enjoy, I just make it my point of being fucking brilliant at it. Sorry, but like,
That's all right.
yeah. So I just like, so a comedy, I loved it, and then I was like, right, how do I be absolutely brilliant at this? And then just practice, and then that was I just need loads of stage time. Brilliant. I'll just do that. I'll chew up the stages, and I did, and then I just kind of kept practicing, got really slick with directing. How do I get good? I watched all the masters, so I just kind of like devoured all the kind of classic films. What like completely picked apart techniques, directing, amazing acting performances. How I can kind of get those. Did all the courses, all the online courses, master classes, and things, and and again, when it's your passion, it's not work. It's just, this is great. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
not so much fun.
Yeah.
And then these toys all come full circle. When I'm blocking out a thing, they become my little stand-in. So I just pose them and kind of like figure out my camera angles. So
I
it
love
all
that.
worked.
So just to finalize, we do a give back, and we've touched upon a lot of kind of like little
Yeah.
amazing advices that we've already talked about. But I would love to kind of summarize what be the one thing that you would ultimately give back to someone to inspire them or to think about.
Do you know what? I was thinking about this because I'm not an avid reader other than comics, and like I say, which are brilliant, and I 100% encourage everybody to just at least pick up one. But my wife was had a podcast that she's been listening to, and she kept thinking of me when she was listening to it, and it was basically about fixed mindsets versus growth mindsets. I'm written it down here because I wouldn't have remembered it, but it sounds really interesting. I don't know if you know about it, but I'm sure it's a Google search away.
Mindset versus what mindset?
Growth mindsets. And like, so she was listening to it again, you're 100% a growth mindset. So the things about a growth mindset: embrace challenge, you persist in the face of setbacks, you see effort as a path to mastery, you learn from criticism, and you find lessons and inspiration in the successes of others. And that was that last one really resonated with me, because I love other people succeeding, and I think that's the thing. I think with comedy, you have to try not to be jealous of other people's successes. It's so hard because you're especially this thing. I need to be better than you because I need to work. I need this job more than you, but I love you, and I think you're great, and you're really funny, and you just won that award. Like, huge congratulations. Same being a creative or director. You've got to not judge yourself against other people. That's their lane. Let them stay in their lane. You stay in yours, and just
That's what I have to really work on my mindfulness about that all the time. Stay in my lane. Do my thing. Take the patience, because if not, you start looking everywhere else, and then the horse just starts rearing off. And I always believe that my dad's a massive horse racing fan, so I always see the horse of those things. But I love that. And so and
it's hard not to, because these incredible things are happening around you, but that can be incredible, and that can be an amazing thing that you look at that person's career and just go, brilliant, that's so good, I'm so happy for you. I'm not in any race, and I don't need to race anywhere. So it's about the patience of just kind of going, putting in the work, putting in the years or the time to kind of just perfect something and enjoy that.
I remember watching, also listening to an audio of a podcast of Tiffany Haddish, the comedian, and she was like 15 years in the making before she even made it, and she was like homeless for like 3 of those years and stuff, and just like, and it was Kevin Hart who gave her like $300 to like rent a motel for the week just to like sort her life out when she was homeless. It just takes that long to do.
It 100% does, and I think if you're really passionate about it, there's a really good Bill Burr one as well, when he was on his meteoric ascent, but it happened slowly, and it happened over time. Is that there was no plan B? There was no backup.
If you notice in my email signature, that's my quote at the end.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I only have a plan A because plan B distracts you.
Right, there you go. There's no plan B. So he was like, put everything into just making it as a stand-up. There's no other option, and I think that's really good. Like, when you've made a decision, just go for it. Put everything into that.
Don't have second thoughts. Just don't
have second thoughts. Like, when you've made a decision, and I've done it loads, and I never do look back. I think that's another good one. It's just like, that decision's made. No, good. Onwards. Let the chips fall where they may.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on 360 yourself.
You're great.
So infectious, and I absolutely love. I wish it could be longer because I could chat.
I know, sorry.
Thank you very much for coming on 360 yourself, and all the best with your comedy stuff and everything that you're doing at Disney.
Great, thank you so much. Lovely to meet you. Yeah, lovely to chat. Thank you so much.